G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, April 3, 2023. And as always, plenty going on in the world of boxing. Just a quick one before we get into it. Daylight savings has ended here in Victoria. So I don't know how that's going to work with the Starlink situation. If you're a regular viewer, you know that I have had some internet issues the last few weeks. That's why I've moved the show to 7 p.m. instead of 7:45 now. It is 7 o'clock here, which means it would have been 8 o'clock in the old time. Gives us about 45 minutes. I'm not sure I was not sure how that will go. What I will say, if this all goes to shit, that I will just do it tomorrow night. It seems to be a Monday thing with Starlink at about 8:45, and that is the new 7:45 if you understand daylight savings. But anyway, I'm here. If this is no good, please let me know in the chat there. And as I said, I will reconvene and we'll do this tomorrow night because, as I said, Monday seems to be the thing. So by the normal time it happens, we've got about 45 minutes before this thing starts to go. So we'll see how we go. So Larry's here. How are you, mate? Salute to you as well, my friend. Congrats on the Zoo win, by the way. Don't know if I already said it, but I believe him and Charlo is 50-50. Yes, I would say so. Look, to be honest with you, look, we love our man Tim Zoo, but I'm probably going to say, well, look, I think Tim Zoo will win, but I think by records and resumes and experience, I think it'd be more like 55-45 in favour of Charlo. He's the undisputed champion. Let's don't forget. But Tim Zoo, I have no doubt that he will do the job later in the year, if and when it does happen, by the way, because we've had no news, by the way, when it's going to happen. Tim Zoo's ready to go, could probably fight tomorrow. Taking a little bit of a vacation since his last win a couple of weeks ago. Was it 3 weeks ago, whatever it was? And he's ready to go. Stephen, how are you, mate? Thanks for joining in. As I said, as more viewers come in, just a heads up, as I said, it's daylight saving here is finished. So I don't know what and how the internet's going to affect me, but if it does start to shit itself, please let me know and we will reconvene tomorrow night. I might have to move it to Tuesdays, but anyway, we'll see how we go. So big weekend of boxing here in Australia. I know we get a few overseas viewers here, which is great. Really appreciate you watching this little show here in Australia. We had a big fight night on the weekend. Floyd Masson won the IBO cruiserweight title. I'm going to go through that card. It was a great night of boxing, I will say. Some news on the Maloney boys. I've been talking about it last 3 weeks. Well, it's all been 100% confirmed now. Both boys, big world title fights coming up in the next 6 weeks, I think it is. No Limit. There's rumours about their show. It's about to be announced. I can get a little bit of news on the next big No Limit show. Of course, all the world news as well. Carl, how are you, buddy? I don't think you were here last week. And I hope you're good, mate. Floyd kicking ass and taking those. Oh, what a fight it was. We're going to go over that. I'm really interested to hear your views out there, on this card, because it's probably one of the best fights, especially at that weight. I mean, we did, I've seen in years, and I didn't think I'd say that because Jai Pataya only 12 months ago won the title against Breedis, and what a fight that was as well. So. What we're going to do, so the way, if you haven't been here before, and if you have been here before, there's a lot of you that regularly come on, and it's much appreciated. If you don't know how it works, this is your show. I've got my agenda to go through, but I want you to bring up the topics, your questions, whatever it might be, that we are to discuss, because, as I said, this is a totally interactive show for you guys watching live, by the way. If you're watching this later or listening on Spotify, of course, that's not the case, but I value your input as well. So what do we got there? Larry, what do we got there, mate? First one off the rank. What's your thoughts on Zarafa versus Lara being ordered by the WBO? Lara is old, but I haven't really seen Zarafa live. Do you think he's got what it takes to take the belt? Look, Larry, I'm going to be honest here. We all want our guy to win over here. Well, it's probably a strange thing to say because there's a lot of people that don't. But look, he's an Aussie, and you've got to get behind the Aussies, and I'll continue to do that. Look, regardless of Lara's age, Larry, I think it's a very, very tough fight for Michael Zarafa. Look, I think he had the choice of either going the WBA route or the WBO. WBA, sorry. This is WBA, not WBO, by the way. This is WBA title. So he could have went for the IBF or WBA, and he's gone the WBA route. So, look, I don't know, Larry. It's a tough one. I think even though Lara was 38 years old, guys like him, he hasn't had a lot of punishment in his career. Hasn't been overly active either, so he hasn't been in a lot of wars. I know he's had some really big fights, of course, but um, look, I would probably still have to back Lara, Larry. I think Zerafa has improved a hell of a lot. Hasn't been overly active in the last couple of years. It's probably the only thing that sort of worries me a little bit with Michael. I think he lost to Jeff Horn at the end of 2019. Of course, COVID hit, so no one was really fighting, and I think he only had a couple of fights. But last year he had 2 fights, so it's a little. Before that had been 1 fight a year. So look, he's not without a chance, Larry. But it's a tough ask. Lara, these Cuban boxers, they are just great technical fighters, and it's going to be tough for him. And look, Michael's problem is that he hasn't performed well outside of Australia. And having said that, he's fought a lot of very, very good fighters overseas. So the Quinlans and the Russian he fought early in his career, and of course Cal Brook. So it's a little bit hard for him. I think I do applaud him, by the way, for going down this route and taking the WBA title shot against Lara. So, but as I said, man, I'm just not sure whether he's got the tools to get it done over Lara. But let's hope so. Hopefully we'll get a date soon too, by the way. Carl says Zerafa hasn't got a cat's tail in a room full of rocking chairs chance. Yeah, look, you probably not being as subtle as I am, Carl. Look, one thing I will say, you got to be in it to win it. And Aussies have shown in the last few years, you put them in the right fight, give them the opportunity, and they'll rise to the occasion. We saw it with Jeff Horn for starters. We've seen it with George Kambosos. We've seen it with Liam Wilson, even though he didn't get the win. So Aussie fighters have shown you give them a chance, and they come to win. I'm just not sure whether Michael Zerafa, as I said, has got the tools to be able to go with Lara, who even at 38 years of age, I mean, look, Golovkin's in his 40s now, so he's still a machine. So, yeah, I just get the impression that Michael's not a big puncher. I know he has had some good knockouts along the way, but he's not a big puncher. Just a good boxer. He just does everything okay, Michael Zerafa, and he's done enough to get where he is. So I really hope he wins. But Lara, these Cuban fighters are something special. I just think he might have a bit too much for Michael, but we'll see. Now, just a quick one, guys. Too. I'm about 45 seconds in front of you. The streaming does slow it down, just so I keep coming through without stopping. It's an automatic thing. So if I don't answer you straight away, I'll come back to it, but I'm going to go through my agenda, and by any means, just if you've got a question or comment, put it in there. And as it says there, let's talk some boxing. Let's get on to the big show that took place over the weekend. It was Ace Boxing's event. Floyd Masson, Fabio Turchi, I'm going to say it now. There was about 3 commentators calling him different names on the week on the telecaster, we'll say. It was Turkey, it was Turchi, it was Turkey. So I'm not quite sure. I'm going to call him Turchi, just for argument's sake. I hope I'm right there. I'm not. Let me know. But look, it was a awesome card by Ace Boxing. The only downside was that the network, a little bit the sound and the picture quality went in and out a little bit. But look, it was an awesome show. Hats off to Angelo Di Carlo. I've said, I keep pumping his tires up on here. The fact that he continues to put it all on the line, give his fighters every possible chance to succeed. You got to like that in a promoter. I've been there myself. It's tough. Financially, mentally, physically, you name it. It's a tough business to be in, which is why I'm now sitting here instead of doing what he's doing up there and putting shows on. But he gave Floyd, look, let's not beat around the bush. The IBO is not one of the big 4. It's not one of the recognised titles. But, however, as I've said with the Dennis Hogan situation, it is a stepping stone to bigger and better things. And in this situation, I think it's a massive tick for Floyd Masson to get a possible Jai Apatow fight. We've got news on Jai Apatow soon, by the way. Before I start, Carl, all right, the shirt. Okay, tonight's shirt is nobody cares. Work harder. It's the bit of a mantra that I go by, Carl. With all your problems in the world and all the shit that people go on about in the world, end of the day, no one gives a shit about you. You got to make your own luck and do it yourself, because no one's going to help you. Remember, everyone wants you to do okay, just not better than what they do. So you got to take that out of the equation. And as it says there, nobody cares about your situation. Just grind. So that's the shirt for tonight, Carl. I'm glad. I think you've always got me on the shirts I wear. I have to keep the political ones out of it, though, won't I? All right. What do we got there? Larry says. All right. We'll get back to Floyd Masson in a minute. In other news, also regarding the 160-pound division, 48-year-old Martinez. I'm assuming you're mentioning Sergio Martinez had a bizarre last fight where he came in juiced up, and his opponent admitted to doing a dive. Okay, I wasn't aware of that, Larry. Let's hear a little bit more about that. Again, I'm assuming you're talking about Sergio Martinez, 48 years old. I did see that he was back fighting, and he was ranked by the, is that right, number 2 by the WBA? Well, there you go. But I didn't know about that, mate. So bit of clarity there, please, if you can let us in on it. I'll keep going through these questions, and I'll come back to Floyd in a minute. Some say that Falcao might fight Martinez for the belt. It's crazy, though, that the sanctioning bodies have Sergio Martinez ranked so high based off a bunch of recent dives and fighting bums. Well, Larry, your guess is as good as mine when it comes to the sanctioning bodies these days. Who knows? I got no idea. And you're 100% right there. How can Sergio Martinez be ranked number 2 by the WBA with his list of opponents? And as we speak, I'm going to bring those opponents up. And let's have a look. Let's have a look at who his recent fight opponents are. Marabilla, there he is. So he's 57, 3 and 2. Right. Well, okay. He's won 2, 4, 6 fights in a row. 15 and 6 was one. 24 and 7 was another one. 32 and 6, 14 and 2, 6 and 6, 18 and 2. So, to be honest with you, Larry, his resume is probably not that different to some of the guys out there, and probably Michael Zarafa is one of them. With all due respect to Michael, those opponents, the records are okay, but whether or not, where's he been fighting? Spain. Has had a fight in America and one in Argentina though, but he had 4 in a row in Spain. So look, fill us in again on the resumes of those guys he's been fighting, Larry, because those records there, he's probably no more deserving than some of the other guys out there. So, and the quality, okay, yep, the quality was average. Floyd versus Jai would be a great fight, 100%, mate. I'll get back to that in a second. Tommy B, how are you, mate? Personally, I give Zarafa a good chance. Okay. He's in his prime right now and has thrown himself in the deep end in the past in the UK and US and has learned a hell of a lot from that. Yeah, really good point, Tommy. Really good point. Look, sometimes you have to put yourself out there in positions that you're not comfortable with, which is what he's done. Went to the US, we went to Russia, I think, as like a 21-year-old. Then went to the US to fight Quillen, I should say, in his early 20s as well. And then what was the Brook fight was about 4.5 years ago, so it would have been maybe 25. So, hey, look, good on him. As I said, I'm not sliding Michael Zarafa at all. As I said, I don't think he'll beat Lara, but I'll be hoping he does. But and you're right, he's 30 years old now. He's in his prime. And he's put himself in a position, and that's all he can do. So good on him, Tommy. I hope he gets the win. Mitch, Mitch, welcome back to the show. Evening, only 20 more sleeps until we get to see Garcia forced to go to sleep. That's obviously Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. Yeah, I've got that on the agenda just to bring up. It's only 3 weeks away now. I must admit, it's snuck up on me a little bit. I was just going through the fight sort of schedule today. I'm like, geez, that's only 3 weeks away. It's amazing, isn't it? And that should be a big weekend of boxing. And I'll get to that because we might have a No Limit show that weekend, or that week as well, the week after. So obviously you think Garcia is going to go to see. I think so too, Mitch. I think that Tank Davis. I think Garcia might have his moments early. I think the way I think the fight will go, and I'm sure you guys will give me your input there. I think my way of thinking the fight will go is that Garcia will have his moments in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Tank Davis will just come out, do his thing, go through the motions, get his range, let Garcia get his confidence up a little bit, and then he'll start to step it up. And I think he gets Garcia out of there in about 8 or 9 rounds. But hey, it's put the spotlight back on boxing. It's going to be a big event. Haven't seen a lot about it though, Mitch, I will say. I'm not sure. Haven't seen a lot on the social media sites. I know they probably don't need to build it up a lot. I know they did the 2 press conferences at the start, but not a lot since then. And as you said, 20 more sleeps to go. I'm assuming it's sold out already, so that's good. But I'm assuming they will then now start to build up the pay-per-view in the last 2 or 3 weeks and start to get that moving as well. I must say I'm not as enthusiastic as Oscar De La Hoya is with the pay-per-views, I would be very surprised if it gets more than 1 million views in the States. I'm talking about Mitch. I know he's talking about 2 or 3 million. I'd be staggered if it got more than one. So to think we've had Pacquiao and Canelo and Mayweather and these types of guys, they're the ones that get 2 or 3 million in those big fights. And even in just an average type of fight, they're getting 1 million. So, yeah, as I said, if this gets more than one, I'll be very, very surprised. But can't wait, mate. Should be awesome. Old mate, Big J, how are you, mate? Evening, boys. That IBO Cruiserweight title has an interesting history for Australia. Green virtually rebuilt his career on that belt. I actually forgot about that, Big J. He did too. He now that was that the title he won before he fought Jones Jr., was it? Or was that the IBF light heavyweight title? Let me bring that up, man. You probably beat me to the punch here. You probably know what's going on. That's not him. That's a different Danny Green. The Green Machine. So he won Australian Cruiser, IBO World. Shane Cameron is who he fought. So that was back in 2012, unless he's had it. Oh no, he's had it before that. So there you go. Yeah, he did too. So he won that back in what was that? Julio Cesar Dominguez. Yeah, and then got fights with Jones Jr. after that, Manny Siaka, Paul Briggs. So yeah, you're right. Did rebuild his career, mate. So I forgot about that. I forgot that he was actually a cruiserweight at the end, wasn't he, Danny? Because he started at super middleweight and ended up, cruiserweight. And he's a big guy. Actually come down for cruiserweight to fight Anthony Mundine, who was campaigning at super welterweight at that stage. So to put that in perspective for you guys out there, the kilos, Mundine was campaigning at 70 kilos. Green was campaigning at 90 kilos. And I think they met in the middle at 80, I think it was. So just amazing. Larry, there was a YouTube video of his opponent saying he got $5,000 to take a dive. This is getting back to Sergio Martinez. The shot that landed hit on the glove. If you look closer, who's guys beat, it's a punch. It is a bunch of 2 to 10, 4 to 40 fighters. Okay, well, I must have the wrong thing here, mate, because I've got. Is this the guy he actually fought or him himself? Because I've got his record up here, and they're all actually pretty good records. So, anyway, but yeah, interesting to see what happens there anyway. Larry again, by the way, don't rate that fella Okoli at all. Jai Pataya knocks the guy out. I reckon he doesn't want no part of Jai, in my opinion. Yeah, we went over this last week, Larry. I 100% agree. And I was actually appalled that was actually a world title fight last week. I would have thought that the level of competition at division would have been a bit more than what it was. And look, that's probably an unfair thing to say, I suppose, because Okoli's a world champion. David Light's got a good background, but the fight itself was just a shocker. They both look like amateurs now. They really did. It was just wrestling, and it just wasn't a great fight. But look, as I said, I'm not going to rubbish anyone that's in a world title fight. I know what they put into it, so I won't say that. But as far as the fight itself, I thought it was shocking, and I still can't believe, Larry, in that fight last week with Okoli, that David Light's trainer got in there with shorts and thongs on. Now, from overseas, you guys call it flip-flops. I'm thinking over there, how do they allow that, and how can you respect the sport to get in there and have thongs/flip-flops? When I say thongs, Larry, I think of the Americans, don't they? I think that's the G-string that we call it, but I'll say flip-flops for you guys overseas. Andy, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show. Great to have you along. I'm glad everyone's here with the time difference and daylight savings. Everything looks like with what we've got there that probably suits everyone a little bit better. Let's hope this internet holds out, because I don't know when Starlink are going to decide to do their upload. And as I said earlier, if it does stop, then we'll reconvene tomorrow. Jai versus Floyd, not a good fight. Jai would kick the shit out of Floyd. Okay, well, that's putting it, that's straight to the point, mate, putting it bluntly. Look, Big J, look, I will agree. I'm not saying, kick the shit out of him. He's kicked the shit out of a lot of guys, hasn't he, Big J? I think Jai still wins that fight very comfortably. That's what I'll say. And I will get back to that card soon as far as the whole card goes, because I want to talk about it. But as I said, you guys keep with your comments there and we'll come back. But not a good fight. Well, what do you guys think? Do you agree with Big J? Jai would kick the shit out of Floyd. And I didn't actually know. I know the whole thing was Australia's got the new world champion. The guy's actually a Kiwi and moved over here just a few years ago. So, hey, but us Aussies, we tend to embrace the Kiwis that do good, don't we? Whether they're sports people or actors or whatever it is, we always embrace them. So, but either way, Aussie, Kiwi, whatever, it was a great performance. And the fact that both of them went to hospital afterwards, which doesn't surprise me. If you didn't see it, it was an absolute 12-round war for the IBO Cruiserweight title. The scores were 117, 110, 115, 112 times 2. Now, I must admit, I had it 115, 112 for Floyd Masson as well. And here's another one. I said about his name earlier with about 3 or 4 different pronunciations of Turchi's name. Well, Masson was called Mason. I'm going to call him Masson because I think I've heard him actually call himself that. So Floyd Masson. But yeah, I had 115, 112. Now, I've got to say, I was really happy as well with this, is that as I was scoring the fight, I'm thinking, geez, I hope the judges are actually giving this guy, Turchi, the credit he deserves as far as winning some of these rounds. Because I could see the commentators were, I think, very, even though they were saying it was obviously a great fight and it was maybe a close fight, I think they were sort of saying that Masson was winning nearly all the rounds. I was just hoping that the judges wouldn't see it the same way, and I'm rapt that they saw it 115, 112, and give this guy the credit that he deserves by putting in an unbelievable effort. He didn't give up. He looked gassed after 5 or 6 rounds, but he dug deep. He wore a lot of big, I won't say big punches, but a lot of accumulation of punches, and he just kept coming forward. And he kept throwing bombs, and Floyd really had to be on his mettle the whole fight. And got a well-deserved win. We'll get a couple of more comments there. 20K a ticket for ringside. Is that Garcia and Davis, is it, Carl? That is crazy, mate. $20,000. No way would I pay that. Well, I wouldn't have that to pay, but I wouldn't pay it anyway. What did you miss? Is Tank Ryan free on DAZN in Oz too, or pay-per-view here? I'm thinking, Andy, it will be pay-per-view. Just my gut feel. It's not on. Actually, I'll check while we're going. I did check on the weekend with main event, and it wasn't up yet, so I'm not quite sure. Let's have a look. Right, let's have a look and see what's coming up. We've got Joyce and Zhang. That's on the 16th of April for $30, but no mention of Garcia and Garcia and Davis. So I'm assuming it's going to be pay-per-view here, mate. Well, why wouldn't they? I mean, not stupid here in Australia. They're going to know that people are going to want to watch it and pay it. So, why not make a few bucks? Hopefully it's only $30, which is, it's still $30, and it's probably going against what DAZN sort of come out with. I mean, we come out, what was it here, $2 or something when it first started. Now it's $15. I must admit, I don't have it anymore. Although it was free on DAZN, I'll be paying it, and just for that month anyway, probably deleting it, because they haven't really had a lot of really good fights on it lately, and I just refuse to pay $15 for it. Just it's just me. Tommy B, what do you got there, mate? Hey, Lyndon, do you know many names who are going to be on the No Limit Melbourne show? Definitely a few I'm hoping to see. Okay, well, we'll jump forward to that, Tommy, because and we'll go back to the Masson and Turchi card. Okay, so I won't mention names, but I've got a little bit of an inside scoop with the No Limit show. I did mention a couple more names, but the ones I can, and it did surprise me, is that Jai Opetaia is supposed to be the main event on the Melbourne card. Now, let's put it in perspective. This is going to be the 26th of April, which is only 3.5 weeks away, which just doesn't seem right to me. I think there was talk it might be a week or two after that if they put it back. Jai Opetaia, of course, is now going through more legal dramas with D&L Events and Dean Lonergan, so I'm not quite sure what's happening there. But the word I got was it was going to be Jai Opetaia. Now, I'm assuming it's against Masternak, but we're 3 weeks out. So by the time this gets announced, we could be 2.5, 3 weeks out. That can't possibly be right. But I've had it on good authority that it is going to be late April, but maybe put back a week. It would have to be, wouldn't it? Surely. I'm assuming if they had it, and I think it's going to be at either Margaret Court Arena or Hisense Arena. Both hold about, I think, 7, 8, 9,000 people, I think. So they would need that type of arena. I think it would sell out pretty quick. But Melbourne's the type of thing you need to let it, not circulate, simmer, I suppose, and get it out there and let it build up. And we've just had we've just had the Grand Prix on here. Just had the Australian Open on here. We've had Cambosos late last year. We're into the footy now. I think they would need a bit more time to get this going. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's put back, Tommy, but that's what I'm hearing, late April, 26th of April to be precise. But so Jai Opetaia was going to be the main event. I'm hearing Nikita Zua fight Benjamin Bomber. on the undercard, which makes sense to me too, because Benjamin Bomber's a Melbourne boy, overseas at the moment in the US in his training camp, so that makes really good sense. I haven't had this confirmed by the management or the promoters. I'm just saying what I'm hearing. This is what I'm just putting out there. If I had heard it from someone directly, that like a promoter or one of the managers, I wouldn't be saying it because that's a breach of privacy. But just the rumour mill and people talking amongst themselves, that's what I'm hearing. So Nikita and Benjamin Bomber on the undercard. And Jade Mitchell will be on the undercard as well. And there's talk that he might fight Reynold Quinlan. What do you think about that? Was supposed to be Blake Wells, but he got beat, was it last week or the week before in Sale on the Wildfighter event. So now they're talking maybe Reynold Quinlan. Now, for me, I did speak to a couple of people in the know about that, and I reckon Reynold Quinlan's, he's got a new lease of life. He's got the new trainers and everything else. So that's a risky fight for Jade. Look, I think Jade will win it, but it depends on what Reynold Quinlan turns up. Now, he's had fights where he's turned up and just gone through the motion and been half asleep and just been outboxed because he's lost a lot of fights. I'm going to bring his record up here as we speak. He's lost a lot of fights, but he's one of those guys, those journeyman fighters, that if you sleep on them, then, anything can happen, as Jack Bowes found out was a fight back. So he's 16-11, but he's on a 3-fight winning streak. He beat, after Blake Wells beat him, when was that? That was about a year ago. He's beat Sabanaka Naliva by 3rd-round KO. He's knocked out Jake Bowen in the 2nd round and knocked out Dylan Wright in the 2nd round, which, look, Dylan Wright's probably not exactly a world-class fighter, but he's been active. But that Jack Bowen fight, I had a lot of raps on Jake Bowen. I thought he was Jack Bowen, very, very good young fighter. So I thought that would be a good win for Jack Bowen. However, Quinlan upset him with that 5th-round knockout. It was a brutal knockout as well. So he's capable of that. So they're the only 3 I know at the moment, Tommy. So Jade Mitchell, Nikita Tszyu, and Jaya Pataya. But either way, if that's the 3 sort of main fights, they did mention a couple of others, but not off the top of my head. But they're saying Wednesday, April 26th as a pay-per-view on Fox. So we'll see. Carl, looking forward to seeing Nikita again. How good did he look in that last fight? And it was really good to see him live. I've seen him a couple of times now, but I didn't see enough of him. He knocked out Mason Smith, I think it was, in Newcastle that I went up to, and it got him out of there in about 2 minutes. So it was really good to see him in a really good young fighter in Bo Belbin, who was 7-0 with 5 knockouts, and really just took Bo apart. So looking forward to seeing him again, mate. And yeah, should be great. And Benjamin Bomber, he's a good young prospect as well. So, and he's been calling Nikita out. So sometimes you've got to be careful on what you wish for. But that'll be a really good fight. Looking forward to that one. Larry, again, how do you rate Sam Goodman? I saw his recent fight and he looked pretty good. Don't know if he's ready for a world title level just yet, though. He's ranked at number 4 by the WBO at 142. Larry, to be honest with you, I don't think he's anywhere near ready for a world title shot yet. I'll bring his record up while we're talking as well. Look, don't get me wrong. I think he's a great young prospect, and I think he will eventually fight and possibly win a world title, or fight for and possibly win a world title. But his last fight, look, it wasn't the most exciting fight, but no issues with that because TJ Donaghy is a former world champion himself, very, very cagey fighter. I think Sam, they used it as an experience-gaining fight. They didn't take any risks, so it wasn't great for us watching, but I think it was a really good learning curve for him. And TJ Donaghy, I spoke to Mike Altura before that fight. They were very confident they would beat Sam Goodman, and Sam pretty much won every round. So that's his record. So he's 14-0 at the moment, and he's had some good fights. Like he's had 3 of his last 4 fights have gone 10 rounds. So he's getting those rounds under his belt. And I didn't know he was ranked that high at number 4, mate. But actually, I did have the rankings up as well. I'll just have a quick look because I just want to see who he would actually be in line for. You probably know that there. So the WBO, which now the rankings are of March 20, so only a couple of weeks ago. What have we got there? So, what is he? Super featherweight, isn't he? Sam Goodman. So you've got obviously Stevie Fulton and Inoue are going to be fighting for that belt, those undisputed, WBC, WBO belts. So, but we'll see. He's not really ranked with anyone else that I see there at the moment. So, although I'd say he'll get a WBC ranking soon because TJ Donaghy was ranked number 11, and those haven't been well, they were updated on the 15th of March, so I'm assuming he'll get in anyway. But I rate him very, very highly, Larry, to answer your question, and I think he'll definitely fight for a world title. I would think he's probably about 12 to 18 months away from being in a position to maybe be on the fringes of a world title. However, if a shot comes up, take it. Happened to Liam Wilson, and you come this close to getting the job done. But I'd like to probably see at least 12 months, probably another 3 fights for Sam, I would think, and then he might be ready. But as I said, if something comes up, why wouldn't you take it? Not to diss the Hawker versus Brown fight. This is on the undercard of Masson and Turchi, but I'll say how the hell does a fighter that lost not 1 but 2 fights straight, including a second round KO, get a title shot? Oh, Big Joe, mate, I'm with you, and I was going to bring it up. I'm glad you've actually mentioned it. Look, first of all, let's get it probably straight. This is not the world title, I will say. I'm glad Tazzy's not on here because he would be taking me to task now. Look, for me, the WIBA is not one of the main titles. It's like the IBO. It's a stepping stone. Probably the IBO for girls, I would say, for the females to get to that next echelon. I think a lot of Beck Hawker, but I'm with you, mate. I did actually watch a few videos of Carissa Brown. She got wiped out by was it what? That must have been that second round stoppage. I can't remember her name, but she was a good young girl, and I think she'll be a good fighter going forward. I might just bring her name up here because I looked at the YouTube video just today, and where was it? So all right. So you probably know her name, but she got stopped by Beatrice Ferreira. That was only 3 or 4 months ago. So you're right, to get a world title shot, regardless. But mate, I've seen with the WIBA, I've seen girls had 2, 3, 4 fights getting shots at this title. So look, I think Beck. Look, it's great for her. Look, good on her. And again, it's a feather in the cap of her and her team. But I would think they would see this as the stepping stone to the next fights out there. But yeah, she had no right. Before that, she got beaten over 8 rounds by Vanessa Bradford. She had another loss in there as well in a pro debut. So, and the girls she's fought were pretty much novices or journeymen or journeywomen, however you want to say it. So I'm with you, mate. But I think with Beck Hawker, look, she's only had 7 fights now, so she's got plenty of time. And I think they would see this in the proper light. I would hope I would think they wouldn't see her as one of the legitimate world champions, but just like a Dennis Hogan or one of these types of guys, and a Floyd Masson see it as just, hey, I've got the belt. We know it's not the world belt or one of the world belts, but now it's going to be a stepping stone to get ranked with some of those main organisations. And I think she's capable. The big fight over here, of course, is Beck Hawker and Skye Nicholson. Be a good fight back here, 2 girls. It could be another version of Shannon O'Connell and Ebony Bridges. And who would have thought 2 of the biggest fights, in Australian boxing would be the females. And we've just had Shanika Johnson and Susie Ramadan as well. So some really good girl or female fights happening out there at the moment, or potentially. So look, if I had to be put on the spot, I would still say Skye Nicholson has got the tools to beat Beck Hawker at this stage. But the more fights they get into Beck Hawker, the harder she gets. The more rounds they get into her, I think she's a real threat of beating Skye Nicholson down the track. And how good would that be? I know there's been a bit of call out for it at the moment. I wouldn't mind seeing them both have another 3 or 4 fights, and maybe I would think Skye would only be 2 or 3 fights away for fighting for a legitimate world title. So I would think they would get that, and then maybe bring it to Australia and maybe fight Beck Hawker in Australia, if and when, by the way, they actually do come back to Australia. And that's another point. I think we talked about this last week or the week before, whether Matchroom are actually going to come back to Australia, because it's been a long time since they were here with the Jarvis and Paro fight, and still no talk of a second show. So we'll see. Juggernaut wipes Big Bang out. Now, yeah, I agree, mate. That's, of course, Joe Joyce and Zhang. I agree. I think the Juggernaut, he'll probably be one of the main players, I reckon, in the next sort of 12 months, I reckon, Carl. He'll be the one. I know we're all talking about Fury, Joshua, Wilder, Wilder, Joshua, Usyk, and Wilder. Fury, whatever it is, the big four. But this guy, I think, and I think I'm not that stressed about the Dillian Whites of the world. They've had so many opportunities, or he's had so many opportunities, it's ridiculous. But the juggernaut could be the big one down the track, mate. It could be the big daddy to the Lennox Lewises and Tysons and Holyfields that we saw, 20 or 30 years ago. Larry. Hoping that Jason Maloney can get it done and beat Vincent Astrolabio. Also, his twin brothers fighting Junto. Not a fight I think he will win, but a bit historical with both brothers getting title shots. All right, well, again, we'll jump ahead, Larry. I did have this on the agenda. As I said, we've been talking about it the last 2 or 3 weeks that we all sort of knew what was going on, but it's been officially confirmed that Andrew Maloney and Junto Nakatani will be for the WBO Super Flyweight title on the Devin Haney Vasily Lomachenko card. That's for the undisputed lightweight title, of course, at the MGM Grand Garden Arena on May 20th. And a week before, Jason Maloney will fight Vincent Astrolabio for the WBO Bantamweight title. That's on the undercard. Dejanabek Alim Kanalo, I can never get it right, the Russian, against Stephen Butler for the WBO middleweight title. Now, that's at the Stockton Arena on May the 13th. Stockton is in California. If you're not familiar with it, that's where the Diaz brothers and MMA come from, or the UFC, whatever it is. That's where they come from. And I think it's about an hour and a half drive from San Francisco. So that's May the 13th. So, mate, look, of course I'm hoping that the both boys get the job done. I'll be over there for both fights. I can't wait. And look, I think they can get it done. I think Jason, definitely, in my opinion, gets the job done over Vincent Astrolabio. Not making any bones about Andrew fighting Nakatani. That is a tough fight. But we back our boy. I think he's got it. He's got it. He's had the grounding as well, those wars with Franco, and he's had a really good build-up since then, been very active, got the rounds under his belt, and I think he can get the job done against Nakatani as well. But how good is it to have... I know Jason's probably got the short end of the stick here. He's probably going to fight in front of 3,000 or 4,000 people at the Stockton Arena. Andrew gets to fight in front of 15,000 at the MGM Grand Arena in Las Vegas. Now, quick story about this. If you've watched this show a few times, you'll know that obviously I promoted the boys for 9 fights about 4 or 5 years ago, right in the middle of their career there. And I remember sitting at the StubHub Center, it was called back then, in Carson, California. I'm not quite sure what it's called these days, but then it was StubHub Center for Superfly 2, the big show there. And I remember we saw the Thai knockout, is it Raznavai, whatever his name is, knockout, Chocolatito, Estrada and Koalas fought, you know what I'm talking. Estrada fought there. It was a great card. Brian Valoria fought on the undercard. One of the, I think Anui's younger brother fought. But I remember talking to the boys. We sat there in the crowd, and I remember Andy especially. I interviewed him and said, what does this mean to you? And he said, I just can't wait till I get my opportunity to fight on one of these big shows. And here we are, 5.5 years later. He's going to be fighting on the Devin Haney Lomachenko card at the MGM Grand Arena. It should be massive. I remember promoting him and Jason at the Malvern Town Hall in front of 500 people. I mean, it'll just be massive. And Jason, I think he's got the blinkers on at the moment. He wouldn't care if there's no one in the arena. He would go in there and take Astrolabio out, and I've got no doubt he gets that WBO belt around his waist as well. But Larry, I'm with you, mate. Let's hope the boys get the job done and bring those 2 titles back to Australia, because just add to a real golden age of boxing in Australia at the moment. All right, let's get back to the Floyd Masson and Fabio Turchi fight. Big J. Excellent IBO fight. Yep, no, it was awesome, mate. 115, 114, okay. 5 rounds each, 2 even. The only reason Fabio lost was the point deduction. Otherwise, I had it a draw. Yep. But congratulations to Floyd. Nothing but love for the win. Yeah, well, I think by my count, I had it 7 rounds to 5 for Floyd. And then, of course, the extra point taken off, mate, at 115, 112. But I'm with you, mate. Look, I wouldn't have argued with anyone that had it a draw with the point taken off to give Floyd the win. I don't think Turchi did enough to win it, but worst case, without that point, it could have been a draw. But look, I must admit, I wasn't really keen on Turchi's chances against Masson. I thought, you don't come halfway across the world in a fight that's 50-50 most of the time, but he come over and he give it everything. And full credit not only to him for bringing the fight to Masson, but Masson had to dig deep. Turchi was throwing all sorts of big bombs at him. He kept his composure. He didn't get excited. He got rocked a couple of times, but just kept the focus and just kept doing what he had to do to get the win. So I just thought it was a fantastic performance, and it was great afterwards to see them, even though they were in ambulances, arm in arm, shaking hands, and it sort of reminded me a little bit of Churro Gaddy and Mickey Ward, didn't it, when they were at the hospital together after they've just bashed the hell out of each other for 12 rounds, although they did it 3 times, to actually be at the hospital together and be in good spirits and the best of mates afterwards. So, Jack Dilks, how are you, buddy? What do you got there, mate? Dangerous fight for Jade if he gets the version that stopped Bowen. That's Jade Mitchell against Jack Bowen. Against Reynolds Quinlan. So, I'm with you, mate. As I said, I 100% agree. Look, I think Jade. Depends again what version of Jade turns up as well. If he makes the weight pretty comfortably. This will be at light heavyweight. Jade's normally a super middleweight. I'm not sure whether he campaigns at light heavyweight going forward. I hope he comes down to 168, which is super middleweight. But Quinlan, he's the type of guy who needs a challenge, and when he comes up for that challenge, he would fancy himself against Jade, so he's going to be very dangerous. To be honest with you, Jack, I would probably, if I was giving Jade advice, I would be saying, look, you don't need this guy. Reynolds Quinlan, let's go for maybe someone that's not as dangerous and not as unpredictable. This is only Jade's second fight back after a 3-year layoff. So I would think maybe they would go with someone just who's might be tough and hard and experienced, but not someone that's going to be as dangerous as Reynolds Quinlan. Knowing Jade, though, he won't care. He'll say, bring it on, and I'll fight whoever. But I'd just like to see Jade, as he's coming down in weight and getting his condition back after that long layoff, that he might take someone just a fraction, I won't say easier because they're never easy, but a fraction less dangerous than Mr. Quinlan because, as you said there, he stopped Jack Bowen and he's dangerous. Tommy says, be great to see Jade back. Yep, hope he can get himself in his best shape. I'd love to see Tassie's boy, Luke Jackson, too. I've got a feeling, it hasn't been confirmed, but I reckon Luke Jackson might have another fight up his sleeve. I'm not exactly sure. I know they were talking about Billy did before he got sick. But I can't remember who, or Paul Fleming might have been another one they might have been talking about, but he's just been beaten as well. But this is, I'm not saying anything that's out of school or anything because Tassie's told me nothing. But Luke Jackson, I've just, from what I'm hearing on the traps, might have one more fight left in him, but we'll see. But Luke Jackson, he's been a great stalwart for Australian boxing, and he did have that last fight in Tassie last year. So, long time retired. So, as long as not getting knocked around, well, why not? But, for both of those, mate, I'd love to see, can't wait to see Jade back, but also Luke Jackson as well. Carl says Fulton versus Inouye is the fight of the year, in my opinion, thus far. Yeah, mate, it's hard to disagree. We've got a few, haven't we? We've got, obviously, Garcia and Davis. We've got this one. Who knows what's going to happen with Fury or Joshua or Usyk or any of those guys going forward. There's a lot of big fights this year. Of course, we've got Zhu and Charlo as well. But, it's a ripper. I mean, Fulton's dangerous as well. And as Inouye, however you want to pronounce his name, keeps going up in weight, it's like a racehorse. The more weight you put on them, the more they slow down. Whether he can bring his power up. Remember Manny Pacquiao struggled a little bit with that, bringing his power right up to welterweight or super welterweight. Fulton is a big, strong, super bantamweight. Featherweight, sorry. This is a super bantamweight. I'm with you, Carl. It's a very, very dangerous fight for Inouye, I will say, or Inouye. I'm going to call it Inouye. But, I'm with you there, mate. That will be an absolute ripper. Larry says, fair play to Lucas Brown, who fought Jarrell Miller in the main event in Dubai some weeks ago. He stunned Jarrell a few times. But was out TKO'd, however, for his age, he's as game as they come. Yeah, look, I said last week, Larry, that, got full respect for Lucas Brown. He'll just fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. And he's always got that punch to get the job done. And Miller's, of course, ranked pretty highly with the organisations at the moment. I've got the rankings here. He's now ranked, he's not ranked with the WBC. He's ranked number 9 with the WBA. He's ranked not ranked in the WBO, and he's not ranked in the IBF either. That's a bit strange, isn't it? Yeah, okay. There you go. He's just ranked by the WBA, but that might change as the new rankings come out. But look, he'll be a player at some stage, Jarrell Miller. I wouldn't be surprised if he fights one of the big boys at some stage. But yeah, Lucas Brown, full respect to him. He's been a great fighter for Aussie boxing, and he's probably still got a couple of good fights left in him, I would have thought. Let's hope he gets a couple of more big fights, gets a bit of coin, and he can retire happy and run his gym over in Perth. Oh, mate, Big J. Eddie won't allow Beck versus Sky. Beck will destroy Sky. Counter punch her head off. Look, I'll probably agree and disagree there, Big J. I'll probably agree that Eddie won't let Sky fight Beck, especially at the moment. But Beck would destroy Sky, mate. I've got to say, I'd probably disagree. I think if they fought right now, I would still back Sky. Just her ring generalship, mate. Look, Beck's a good, a strong young girl, lady. Very strong, very aggressive. But I just think technique-wise, depends on how long the fight's for, by the way. If it was a 10-rounder, you got to give Beck more of a chance. Obviously, she can get closer to him, wear her down. But I think anything less than 10 rounds, I would definitely back Sky, mate. I just think she's got the boxing prowess, the technique. Not a big puncher, don't get me wrong. She's not going to score many knockouts during her career, especially as the competition improves. But I just think at the moment, her lateral movement, her technique, very, very good is Sky, and I think she's going to get better. So I sort of agree with Eddie won't allow it, but I disagree with the fact that would she beat her? Hey, maybe, but I don't think she'd destroy Sky. I just think Sky is an elite talent, and I think she'll show that as she goes on. And in the girls, you don't really need to be a big puncher, I don't think, to be dominant. You don't see a lot of knockouts from the girls, and I think Sky's got enough. It's not like she's aggressive and can't punch. She's got great boxing skills and can't punch. So you've got to get close to her. And that style she's quite tall for her weight. She gets really right back and pours it out. So she creates probably an extra foot between her and her opponent. So her front foot is close to her opponent. Her head is probably a foot, if not 2 feet further away. So she's very hard to get to. I'm just not sure at this stage Beck has got that in her to close it up against Sky. And don't forget, Sky's had probably a couple of hundred amateur fights. Very, very, very experienced. So at this stage, I'll be backing Sky, Big J, but who knows? Let's just hope Eddie... Well, look, end of the day, he allowed Ebony Bridges to fight Shannon, and she come through, so maybe this might be the same where they might allow Sky to fight Beck. But either way, I want to see the fight. Jack, I think it's a Lantry rematch for Luke Jackson from what I heard. Good point. I'm glad you guys, especially you, Jack, are out there to correct me on a lot of things. You are right, mate. If you're not sure, you're not familiar with Tyson Lantry, he did beat Luke Jackson a couple of years ago on a no-limit show. I think Luke Jackson would want to revenge that fight and then happily retire. So, so thanks, Jack, for filling me in there, mate. Larry says, if you have any free time in your hands, I would recommend you watch some highlights of Rabisi Ramirez, my favourite fighter by far right now. He just beat Isaac Dogbo for a world title. Was that the one on the weekend, was it, Larry? I didn't actually see the fight, mate. There was a bit going on the weekend. I didn't see it, but I will look at the highlights on YouTube. I am familiar with Dogbo. I actually think a lot of him. Our man, of course, Mike Altamura used to manage Dogbo. Not quite sure what happened there, but I think it was amicable. I think Mike still speaks very, very highly of Dogbo. But Ramirez, as I said, mate, I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I will. And I'll check it out because, to beat Dogbo is a very, very good achievement. Again, Larry, Rabisi has 2 Olympic gold medals. Okay, I didn't know that. Beat Shakur in the finals of the Olympics. Well, that says it all, I suppose. And I believe he will beat all the Mexicans in his division, Lara, Lopez, Vargas, and unify the belts. Okay, all right. Well, as they would say, that's a bold statement. I'm not going to disagree with you. I have seen highlights of him before, but I must admit, I've never actually sat down and watched a full fight. I will do that. So thanks for pointing that out, Larry. I will check it out. I'm assuming that's Lynden there, Benny, but thanks for joining in anyway, mate. It's Benny Harrington, the trainer of Liam Wilson. Always great to have you along, mate. I'm glad with the daylight savings, at least it might give a lot of you guys up the northern states a chance to actually watch the show. So, mate, really appreciate you joining in. Got any question for Benny Harrington, make sure you let him know because, as I said, he trains Liam Wilson and Vegas Larfield and Benny Hussein as well. I think, don't you, from memory? So I've got a question or comment for Benny. Put it in the chat there. All right, Big J. The IBF forced Ebony to fight Shannon. Eddie did everything to avoid that fight. Yeah, well, that's another good point, Big J. Yeah, I think. Look, and that was probably one of the real good things about Shannon going with No Limit, because they didn't take any shit. It wasn't like, and even when I managed Shannon, I didn't have the clout or contacts or probably knowledge even to be able to deal with that on an international level. No Limit and Glenn Jennings, that's what they do. That's their profession. And they pushed the issue. They made the IBF force that fight. And look, credit to Ebony, she got the win against Shannon. So good on her. It was a great performance. But you are right. Eddie did everything to avoid that fight. 100%. He didn't want that fight. It's all good, Benny. Did spell it wrong too, but that's right. Everyone spells it wrong. It's EM, but mate, it's all good. Everyone gets it wrong. But yeah, no, you are right there, Big J. The IBF did or were forced to enforce that defence, and she come through with flying colours. So maybe this will be a similar type of thing. I would think that Beck Hawker would have to be in the mix now, wouldn't she? As far as after that win on the weekend, especially being a WIBA or IBA, whatever it is, champion, that she would be definitely in the mix with the big organisations now to get a shot. And if she does get a shot, then it's amazing who wants to fight you. So that might be the case. And look, if you're Eddie Hearn, why wouldn't you want to have Sky Nicholson win the world title and then come to Australia and fight a Beck Hawker in a big Aussie fight? And why wouldn't you want to have Dempsey McKeon fight, one of the big heavyweights in the world here in Australia? So, or maybe fight a Justice Honey or in Australia. Why wouldn't you? So Eddie, I will say, he's been good at sort of getting the big fights done. So for us here, it just makes sense. Jay, how are you, mate? Thanks for tuning in. Just going back to Jason Maloney with 4 vacant belts. Who gets a Ring Magazine belt? Very, very good question. I suppose that's vacant too, isn't it? Well, I would think, let's go to BoxRec at the minute and let's see who they've got. I think they've still got Inouye as they do. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Very, very good question. I would think, let's go to the rankings for starters and let's have a look. All right, so the fights will be, I might be wrong here, so correct me. We've got Donaire. Now, is he going to fight Rung Vasai? I always get that wrong, like before. Is he going to fight him or Gaballo? I thought it was Gaballo. That's for the WBC belt. But you've got Donaire 1, Rung Vasai is number 2. So that would probably make sense. Good fight that would be too, by the way. You've got Takuma, Inouye, and Laborio Solis for the WBA. You've got, I'm not sure how the number 1 in the IBF is vacant. How can you have a ranking that's vacant? You either have the top 15 or you don't. But the number 1 is vacant. I've never seen that where a ranking is vacant. But the 2 top contenders for the IBF is Emmanuel Rodriguez and Melvin Lopez there. And then you've got Jason and Vincent Astrolabio. Of course, my favourite one will be Jason's fight. But I'll tell you what, if Donaire fights Rung Vasai, that would be a great fight. But as I said, I think he might be fighting Gaballo. So let me know what you guys think. But I would think out of those fights, I've just got a feeling it might be the winner of Donaire's fight. I would think they would crown as the Ring Magazine champion. Because I've said all along, and again, I've got no inside information. I would think if Donaire wins and Jason wins, you will see the next fight will be the WBC, WBO unification fight. And of course, that winner would be the Ring Magazine champion. So how good would that be? All right, what's next for Liam, mate? Loves his work. Loved his work against Navarrete. That's for you, Benny Harrington. If you've got that question there, mate, put it in the chat there. What's next for Liam? When did he last fight? When was it? A couple of months ago. Let's have a look. I know he's probably going to have a bit of a spell. Now let's. There was a Liam Wilson from Australia back in the 1940s. If you didn't know, there he is. So that fight was, when was that? So it was only back in February. It's only about a month ago. Thought it was longer than that. So I'm assuming it'll probably be a couple of 3 or 4 months anyway, mate. But Benny, if you're watching, make sure you answer that. What's next for Liam? Carl says, I wanted Jason versus Nonino for the WBC. Carl, I know that, mate, but you got to move on, buddy. You got to move on. There's a reason behind it. But I hear you, mate. And I reckon we will get that fight. These two are on a collision course. But I think I'm not sure whether I went through this here, but the fact of the matter is it wasn't Jason or his team that decided to go in a different direction. It was Top Rank, who didn't want to deal with was it who was it? Was it Boxer? Is that who we're with? Whoever Nonito's with didn't want to deal with them, and was it Boxer? One of whoever the opposition promoter was, I can't remember. Correct me down there, guys. But it was Jason. Jason wanted that fight with Nonito more than anything. Well, they went to the WBC convention to push for it. Top Rank said, no, we don't want to deal with those guys. So they went for the WBO option. Nonito is going for that, for the WBC belt. But I've got a feeling that if they both win, as I said, there'll be something done where they will get it on next. Thanks, Benny. Still working hard in the gym, awaiting confirmation in regards to next fight. Very keen to get back amongst it. I would just imagine so, mate. And look, he's probably a bit like Stevie Spark, and I didn't mention him earlier as far as the Aussies when they get their opportunity, they take it. Similar thing. They got their opportunities over there, took it with both hands, and even though Liam didn't get the win, I would have thought that the respect that he's got over there would be 10 times what it was. And let's have. He's actually ranked at the moment, mate. I might have a quick look there. He's probably not, but by that performance, he probably should have been. So he's not ranked with any of the organisations at the moment, but I'm assuming, yeah, he'll be back amongst it soon. But thanks, Carl. Pro Bellum. That's what I was trying to spit out. It wasn't Boxer, it was Pro Bellum. They've got all sorts of issues at the moment, does Pro Bellum. So, all right. No Limit has their announcement tomorrow at 12 p.m. Oh, there you go. Okay, so I didn't know that, but yeah, tomorrow. But if you weren't tuned in earlier, I did say that it was going to be. It looked like it was Jai Opataya, Nikita Zoo, and Jade Mitchell. But as you can see, there it will be at 12 o'clock tomorrow. So I'm hoping I haven't jumped the gun and put my foot in it. But that's just what I heard through the grapevine. They told me. Not No Limit or the teams, just those people out there. All right, Carl, good to hear. He won me over with that performance. He's got a new fan here. Yeah, he did, Carl. That's Liam Wilson we're talking about, of course. And what a performance that was. Just a couple of seconds away, wasn't he? So, Jay Brown says, no announcement for Liam Wilson on the No Limit card. I would doubt that he'd be fighting on that card, Jay. I mean, he only fought a month ago. He did get stopped, so he's probably going to have that 30-day suspension anyway. I think if you do get stopped, regardless of the circumstances, I think my opinion is you probably need 4 months out, I would think, before you fought again. Did take some big punches in that fight. Whether you agree with the stoppage or the result, all that sort of stuff. End of the day, he was stopped. So I would think it'd be probably 4, maybe 3 months away. Depends on the opponent he fights, of course. But I think he will be in demand. I did go on, I think it was after that fight, the show with our mate D-Style Boxing on the round table, and they were just so full of praise for Liam Wilson's performance against Navarrete. So the consensus over there is that Liam Wilson's now a player, as is a Stevie Spark. So yeah, as I said, I would assume that he will be in WBO number 6. Okay, all right. Well, maybe I've missed. Is that in the? It would help if I looked at the rankings there, Benny. I'm looking at junior featherweight, not junior lightweight. That would help, wouldn't it? There you go, number 6. You are right. Not rated with any of the others, I don't think. There you go, WBO number 6. So the odds are he'll get another big fight soon, and then I suppose the rest is up to you, Benny. While we've got you there, Benny Harrington, I'll go over the results from the weekend in Queensland, including one of your boys, Vegas Larfield. Vegas got a 6th-round stoppage of Sunan Agung Amaragam, I suppose to pronounce it. And I think you can probably fill us a little bit more here, Ben, that I think Vegas is only, was he 20, 21, whatever, that we've got to get those rounds into him now. He's rushing him into these big fights at such a young age. Take the approach of, get him another 10 to 15 fights, or maybe at least 10 to 12 fights anyway, and against guys that are going to give him rounds, going to fight, orthodox southpaw, old, young, tall, short, whatever it might be, and get as much experience into him as possible. I thought that was a good win, 6th-round stoppage win for Vegas. While we're going, I'll go through the rest of the card there. So as we said before, Beck Hawker got the 7th round stoppage of Carice Brown, who was not impressed. I can tell you, she was not impressed at all. Getting stopped by Beck Hawker. I don't think she expected to lose, but at the end of the day, she had a bit of success in the first round. I thought this knockdown was a bit dubious too, to be honest, that first round one. But Beck Hawker, like a true champion, got up and took care of business in the 7th round. Beck goes to 7-0. Carice Brown drops to 7-4. Good fight on the undercard. Dan Hill, 4-0 now. Won the Australian Super Welterweight title over Victor Nagby, who drops to 5-1. Now that, excuse me, I'm not quite sure whether it's an upset or not, but Victor Nagby's got a very, very good, resume, and I would have thought he would have been expected to win that fight. But Dan Hill with the upset. In my opinion, it was an upset. 4-0 now with that 10-round decision. Also on the undercard, Angel Rushton won the Australian Super Featherweight female title with an 8th round decision over Tawana Campbell. Jalen Tate with a 1st round knockout of Arief Blader. Now, Jalen Tate's now 11-0. Blader has dropped to 27-38-3. Now, I'm not sure what the go with that was, whether Blader was a late replacement or whatever, but I'm hoping at this stage of Jalen Tate's career that they're not deliberately picking out those types of guys for him. It would have had to have been maybe a late replacement or an injury or something would have happened. I can't believe they would put Blader, with that type of record in with Jalen Tate. But yeah, if you maybe Ben, you might be able to elaborate a little bit more on that. So it did surprise me. So just getting back to Vegas, 20 years old. Okay, yeah, I mean, he's just a baby. Has been with us since he started at age 12. Wow. Slowly stepping up the opposition. We believe he has the goods and a lovely kid. Yeah, I've heard really good things about him. I've spoken to the Maloney boys about him, and they think he's a great young prospect. I think he went over there as a sparring partner, if I'm correct. Ben, you might be able to let us know about that. Went over to Vegas. Vegas went to Vegas. I'm assuming his dad has been to Las Vegas a few times and likes it over there. But yeah, look, great young kid, and look, no rush, no rush at all. I would have thought for Vegas Larfield. So also on the undercard, Lachlan Nantes with this 1st round knockout of Brent Moore, and Manyang Dut with an upset 5-round decision over Nathan Watson, who was 9-1 going into that fight. Dut was 3-2. So I would think a bit of an upset there for that. But a really good night of boxing. As I said earlier, you've got to take your hat off to Angelo DiCarlo, who keeps putting his money where his mouth is and giving his fighters every opportunity to realise their dreams. And, as I said, the telecast wasn't the best, but I would hope they would give Angelo a bit of a discount on that. But it's great to have Jaya Pattaya doing commentary. Now, must have been interesting to me because Jaya Pattaya is a Tasman fighter. And I do know that there has been no love lost in the past with Tasman and Ace Boxing. So I'm assuming they've smoked the peace pipe or had a beer or whatever it might be and made amends, because now you've got the two sort of, allowing Jai to be, on the telecast. And I think I'll even seen Tasman share some social media stuff on their page as well. So I think that's great. The more promoters that work in with each other and support each other, the better, because then we get the big fights. And another fight that could possibly be made if it's not Jai Pattaya. Now, I think it was Big J said that Jai would smoke Floyd Masson. How about Floyd Masson and Jason Waitley? If the two companies are now talking amongst each other and having beers and everything else, how good would that be? I think Floyd Masson and Jason Waitley would be a great fight to put on. And the winner can get back in the calculations with Jai Pattaya. Because I would think at the moment that Jai Pattaya would see Floyd Masson. He would have respect for him, especially on the weekend. I still think he would think that he needs another couple of fights to get a crack at my world title. So, but as I said, in the meantime, Masson and Waitley would be a ripper fight. So maybe they can get that on. All right, so that's in regards to Vegas. Yes, he went with the boys when Jason fought Inoue. Is that right? Okay, and needed getting up on the ended up getting on the Khan versus Crawford card. The boys have played a huge part in Vegas development. And look, you're so lucky to have the boys as those sort of mentors and sparring partners. I'm sure Vegas would look at those guys as sort of heroes to him. And the boys are so good with the time. They'll give rounds to whoever. I know they helped Shannon O'Connell out with their fight with Ebony Bridges, and they'll just help anyone out. So I can't speak highly enough of the boys myself, as everyone knows. I always do. But, if you can stick with those boys, mate, then it would be great to be. Because you've got to remember, guys, if you're in a winning environment, a winning situation, like you go up there and you see the Maloney's there and is it Bruno and these types of guys in Tarimo in the gym, it just makes these guys look a bit tall. And in your gym, of course, Benny, you got Liam Wilson there as well. So really, really good environment for guys like Vegas. And there's more to it, I think, than just being in a gym and hitting the pads hard or hitting the bag hard or whatever it might be. Winning people that are winners, whether it be in business or sport or whatever it might be, surround themselves with like-minded people, which is how they get from here to here. And that's why you see a lot of the gyms in America, the fighters in there, you walk in there and you can just feel they're different. They're not just a gym, it's a lifestyle. And that's why I think, as I said, with Vegas being around those types of gyms with the boys, and Liam, of course, can do nothing but improve him as a fighter going forward. Tommy B. Question to Benny. Was there any hesitation or nervousness in chucking Vegas on that Crawford Khan undercard? Seemed risky, but man, he looks so good. Looks as good as any prospect in Australia. 100% he does. I'll say that for sure. And it's still a little bit early for him, I suppose, because there's a lot of young prospects out there. But I would think, as I said earlier, get another 10 fights in him before they look to step him up. By that stage, he'll probably be 23, maybe 24. And, that's when you really start to take on those good international fighters. But I'm with you, Tommy. Great young prospect. And, no doubt, be interesting to see who you're going to sign him with, Benny, I would think. I would think that No Limit would have to be sniffing around by now, wouldn't they? And why wouldn't you if they've got the all the apples in the basket when it comes to the TV? So is he another question for you, Benny? Is he with one of the promoters at the moment, or is he you just feeling the waters out there for him, or have you got someone in mind? So anyway, see what happens with him. All right, so we've discussed the Maloney's, the No Limit card. I did see also, guys, that Dennis Hogan, I'm not sure this has been officially announced, is fighting James Metcalf for the IBO title in Dublin, Ireland on May 20th on the undercard of Katie Taylor and Chantel Cameron for the undisputed junior welterweight world title. So Hogan 31-4 with one draw against Metcalf 24-2. Should be a really good fight. Another one for Benny, just answering that question here. It's a culture and go both ways. Yep. You can create a winning culture or a losing one. It's not easy and that needs constant monitoring. Yeah, mate, I'm always just a big believer, as I said, whether it's in sport, and I'm talking boxing, football, basketball, whatever it is, or business, or just in life in general. To have that winning mentality, you have to surround yourself with other winners. If you surround yourself with the also-rans and people with negative attitudes, that's going to be your mindset. So, that's the way I've always conducted my life, is surround yourself with winners and you become a winner yourself. And that's just the way it is. If you surround with negative people, then you become a negative person. And I'm telling you, especially when it comes to boxing, you don't want any negative thoughts when you're going into the boxing ring, I assure you. So keep the questions coming there, guys. Really appreciate you answering these questions, by the way, Benny. It's good to have you there. We'll have to get you actually on the show one night. You can answer them in person. I'll give you a little bit more heads up, that is. Tommy says, yep, huge credit to you guys with that, mate. Very impressive. Yeah, that's with the Vegas Larfield. So great stuff there, Benny. On to some international news, guys. So you would have seen on the weekend. What did you think of Anthony Joshua, Jermaine Franklin? I just thought he just got the job done. Just got the 12-round decision. The official scores are 118, 111, 117, 111 times 2. So just got the job done. We'll keep going back to the comments. Benny, yep, there was, mate, plenty of hesitation. That was in regards to him fighting on the Crawford Khan card. But my final decision was, I thought, who am I to deny this kid of his dream of fighting in Las Vegas? Good call, mate. 100%. And look, the thing is, too, I mean, especially when it comes to Vegas, 20 years old, I'm assuming he would have been 18 or 19 at the time. Look, even if it had gone pear-shaped and he had been beaten, look, he's got plenty of time to pick himself up and go again. I mean, I've always been an advocate of, and I say here all the time, just records mean nothing in the scheme of things. The greatest fighters of all time have had multiple losses across the journey, Mayweather excluded. So this whole undefeated mentality has to go. And I would have thought the attitude would have been, apart from what you said there, mate, about his, well, how can you stand in his way of his dream of fighting in Vegas? That if you had a lost, then who cares? It's experience, and we now you know what's expected of you. Now you know what level you got to be at. Let's go back home and get down to business, as they say, and let's go again. So really no risk to take if the opposition, you think it is at least a 50-50 fight. So a bit different throwing in with a killer. But it worked out that way, and I'm totally with you, mate. Certainly paid off, that's for sure, mate. So getting back to Joshua, there's talk now that he might fight Fury later in the year. I believe it when I see it. But he did that win over Jermaine Frank. Well, look, it wasn't the most exciting fight. Let's admit it. But I don't begrudge Joshua for that. By the way, he's lost to Usyk twice just to get a win on the board. So you can't argue with that. Franklin, I thought, was the perfect opposition for him. Joshua's now 25-3. Franklin's 21-2. But yeah, I just thought he was a really good guy for him, just to get through 12 rounds. I think Joshua could have really finished him if he went for it, but I don't blame him. Don't take any chances. Just get a 12-round decision under your belt. I'm sure he'll be ranked nice and high with all four organisations. Now, I did see on the weekend too that Deontay Wilder is now ranked number 1 with the WBA, so I'm not quite sure what he's done to achieve that ranking. I'm not sure they've updated. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, he's number 1 with the WBA and WBC now. So he can either, will he fight Fury a 4th time or Usyk? I think that's a bad fight for Usyk to fight Wilder. Such a tall guy with that knockout power. It's one thing fighting Joshua or Fury, but Wilder, even though not as skilled as those two guys, he has got dynamite in his right hand. I'm not sure whether a blown-up cruiserweight like Usyk. That's a smart fight for him. But anyway, we'll see. Wilder's also number 4 with the IBF and 6 with the WBO. I'll go back to that one. Agree. Yep. The risk versus reward was heavily in favour of the reward. So, yeah, mate, for sure. Put a shot of adrenaline in his career at a young age. That's for sure. Wow, geez, mate, he would have been walking on water when he come back. And the thing is too, is that you get the win, and it's what it does to the belief of the fighter. Big stage in Vegas. Was it in Vegas? It was in the States. Big fight for him. Comes back, and it's that attitude he now has by coming back to Australia. He just has a little bit more of a strut about him. He knows what it's about, and I've said it on this show before. When we went to the States in 2015, when I took the Maloney boys over for a camp in LA and Vegas, they sparred with Lomachenko. They sparred with who else did they spar with? The former the IBF featherweight champion that beat Billy Dibb, the Russian. They sparred with him. And I wanted them more so. It was more just about the sparring. That was great, but just to be around Vegas. It was Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather at the time, so you couldn't get any bigger than that. I wanted them to be around the wild card. I wanted them to be around Mayweather's gym. I wanted them to be around Garcia's gym in Oxnard. I wanted them to be in Vegas. I wanted them to be amongst it for them to see what it was about. And as both of them have said afterwards, just going there and seeing that. Because you see it on TV and you think these guys are Superman. Going over there and being amongst it, you realise they're not as good as you might think they are. It's not as daunting as you think it is. And that's what the whole camp was about. And I'm assuming that in this case for Vegas, he would have thought the same thing. Joshua is shit. Big J rolling out the big quotes tonight. Joshua is shithouse and needs to give it away. Terrible fight. Again, I was trying to be polite, Big J. Fury and Wilder would destroy him. Oh, yeah, I think so too, mate. I think, I'm not sure Fury destroys him, but I think he beats him handily. I think Wilder knocks Joshua out. And I'm not saying Wilder is skillful, but they say it's styles. Joshua is susceptible to that big right hand, and all Wilder's got to do is land it once. I can see Joshua outboxing Wilder for how long it lasts, and I just see Wilder just landing with just one of those big right hands, and that will be it. Joshua is a bit fragile mentally and on the jaw as well. And I'm with you there, Big J. I have to put a little bit more subtly than you put it there, but I'm with you. I think Fury and Wilder both beat him quite comfortably. Now, this weekend, I've got about another 10 or 15 minutes to go, guys, so put your comments in there. Shakur Stevenson's defending his... no, he's not defending. He's fighting for the WBC ranking, if you fight for rankings these days. It's an elimination fight with the Japanese fighter Yoshino. That's in Newark, New Jersey. So that should be good. Shakur Stevenson, they're trying to get him on the way to fighting Devin Haney or Lomachenko, the winner of that one. I don't think the Haney fight happens, I'll be honest with you. I think if Haney beats Lomachenko, I think he moves up. But if Lomachenko wins, how good would that be? Lomachenko and Stevenson, geez, that would be brilliant. Back to the Joshua fight. Ronnie, how are you, buddy? Watched the Joshua fight, thought he was too tentative. Had nothing in his jab. 20,000 people don't turn up to see. Yeah, no, I'm with you, mate. And look, I didn't watch it live. I had to watch it on YouTube, so I didn't really get the whole live atmosphere and that sort of stuff. But geez, it was a hard watch for 12 rounds, Ronnie. I will say it was tough. But look, as I said, sometimes you just got to get it done. It's one of those instances where you win this one and look good next time. That's what it's about. That's the old saying. Win this fight and we'll just look good next time. Just get this one out of the way. Get the 12 rounds under our belt. Get a win and get back in the rankings, and away we go. But I'm with you, mate. It was a tough watch. And I didn't watch the whole thing. I skipped through a little bit of it, I've got to admit it. So anyway. Benny, the most impressive thing was I wasn't in his corner. Angelo Hyder was. Well, you can't get much better than that anyway, mate. He's in very, very good hands there with Angelo Hyder. Big deal at 18 years of age. 18 years of age, being with a 27-year-old 2-0 Mexican. To that in Las Vegas without your own coach is unreal. Yeah, well, mate, that is even better. And even though Angelo Hyder, is a great trainer, been there obviously with the Maloney's and Danny Green in the past, and Chris John, of course. To do that, not only to be in a big fight in Vegas against an undefeated Mexican, and let's face it, you don't get an easy Mexican, especially an undefeated one, 27 years of age, and to do that job on him. Because you've got to remember too, Angelo would also he's in good hands, but Angelo, from what I've seen, Benny, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, excuse me, is a different trainer to you in the corner. You seem very reserved, reflective, calm, cool, collected, let's just say. Angelo Hyder, I've seen it firsthand, can get very excited in the corner. I don't think he did in that fight from what I remember watching it. But that would have been a bit daunting to him as well, to have someone that's got a different demeanour to you in the corner as well. I'm sure Angelo would have been great in the corner. He wouldn't have overstepped the mark. But you're right, it's all the learning curve. So if something happens now, in any situation where you can't be there, you know that he can adapt and adjust and get the job done. So it's all experience, which is awesome. Tommy B, I think it's hard for AJ at the moment, probably under the most pressure in his career so far with his recent record. And look, Tommy, we saw that in the fight or after fight with Usyk, because he pretty much had a meltdown in the ring, and you sometimes see that. They're so used to winning. They're so used to having this pressure on them. It's winning. It's win or nothing. And that's a great mentality to have. But when you go into these fights, but not a great thing to have if it actually affects you mentally. And yes, no one likes to lose, and everyone gets shitty, and everyone throws the toys out of the cot and all that sort of stuff. But he looked like he actually had a mental, or some sort of mental breakdown in the ring, because I just think this pressure on him. And let's not forget that the whole weight of that country is on him to win. It's been there since he fought at the Olympics, obviously when he was world champion. I think it sort of almost brought him undone at one stage. So to not get the chocolates in that fight would have been just hard for him to compute. It was almost like he blew a fuse. Like, this can't be possible. I cannot lose to this guy twice. And he literally had some sort of breakdown in the ring. Now, he's a lot calmer, obviously, this time he got the win. But I just think, hopefully now, maybe the pressure gauge is gone. The valve has been released a little bit, and he can come back a little bit and get back on track. But I'm not so sure he can. I'll admit, I think we've seen the best of AJ. I'm not sure he can get back and I think his best days are behind him. And look, hopefully he can get back to that point, because there's some big fights still out there out there for him. But can he? I just think he's too mentally fragile. I'll admit it. I just think he's too mentally fragile to get back to that point. He can't brush off a loss. I think that's damaged him to the point now where I just don't think he'll ever be the same. Hopefully I'm wrong, because as I said, there's some big fight to be made for him. The other fight this week too, I did see, Sebastian Fundora, potential Tim Tszyu opponent, is fighting Brian Mendoza this week at Carson, California. I know that venue very, very well. As I said earlier, I was there with the Twins back in 2017 for the Superfly 2 show at the StubHub. Great arena for boxing. It's actually an outdoor tennis court, basically. And I suppose the weather over there is a little bit more predictable than it is here, but that's literally what it is. It's an outdoor tennis stadium that they make into an outdoor mini boxing stadium. I think it's probably, I'm not quite sure, probably gets 5,000 or 6,000 people in it. I might be wrong. That's probably what I'm assuming. I've been there a few times now. It's a great venue. I saw Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Get knocked out by Fonfora for the WBC, is it super middleweight or light heavyweight title back then, and obviously that show as well. And I reckon I've been there, and I was there the night that that Vic Darchinyan. It was actually one of the Marquez and Vasquez fights, and it was an absolute war, as they all were. I can't remember, but Vic Darchinyan fought on the undercard. I've told this story a few times, but I'll tell it again. Vic Darchinyan knocked out a Mexican fighter. They had to carry him out on a stretcher. Looked pretty bad there for a while. And all the Mexicans started raining debris on Vic Darchinyan as he's getting interviewed. Bottles and cans and rubbish and whatever they could find on him. Well, one thing I learned at that event is you don't mess with... now, is he Albanian? Have I got that wrong? I hope I haven't got it wrong. Albanian. Whatever nationality it is, you don't mess with him, because him and his supporters literally jumped up into the crowd and were trying to punch on with the Mexicans. And considering there was probably about 5,000-6,000 Mexicans there, probably not the ideal thing to do, but didn't worry them. They got up there and just went for it. So I've got to type in Vic Darchinyan as we're going here, guys, because I really don't want to disrespect him by getting his nationality wrong. Armenian. Sorry, I did say Albanian. They're crazy as well, the Albanians, but Armenian. Apologies for that. Yeah, so he and his crowd jumped up into the stands, and it was on with the Mexicans. And I think the Mexicans were like, "What the hell?" They thought it was probably a bit of fun, you know, because they're the most passionate boxing fans in the world, the Mexicans. And when you've got these crazy Armenians jumping up in the crowd, it was pretty funny, actually. All right, what else we got? Tommy B. Agree, comes back to the whole record debate in boxing. When losses are so costly that pressure changes fighters. Look at Lopez since George beat him, similar to AJ, I reckon. Same thing, Tommy, 100%. He couldn't compute that he'd lost. He just couldn't compute it. And even to this day, Lomachenko's a bit the same. You would have seen this week, he's been quoted saying that he still regards himself as undefeated. He didn't lose those two fights. Now, both of those fights you probably could have argued maybe were close-ish, but he just disregards him because it's good mentality to have. He's a winner, but some of these guys just cannot compute that they aren't the best in everything they do. And you're right, Lopez was definitely one of them. Fundora has finally made enough money from boxing, so he should quit at the Zoom measuring giraffe heights. You probably could, mate. I know what you're getting at there. You could work at a Zoom measuring the giraffes. So, mate, he's a monster. I actually met him, stood next to him at the Hall of Fame in Canastota last year. He was there with his manager, Samson, there. And, mate, he is a monster. Now, he fights at 70 or 69.8 kilos or 9 kilos, whatever it is. The guy is so tall, it is scary. And to think it would have to be in there and try and chop this guy down, it's impossible to even think about. He's so tall. Now, I fought a division below what he is now, and I'm looking up at him thinking, geez, how the hell would I even lay a hand on this guy? Just so tall. But I think he gives whoever he fights problems, Carl. I don't think he's in the league of a Tszyu or a Charlo or these types of guys, or a Spence, but you got to give him his due. He's going to make life hard for anybody. Thanks, Jules. Yeah, thanks, mate. Vic is Armenian. Sorry about that. All right. Teo doesn't even recognise that loss. Neither does his dad. His dad's a piece of work, as we know. But Yeah, and since then he hasn't been the same fighter. Let's face it, has not been the same fighter since then. So yeah, it's an interesting one. So I'll be watching. I'm not sure whether that's on Fox this weekend or anywhere else, or DAZN. That's Fundora Mendoza, but that should be a pretty good fight. And you would think that the winner would be in line to fight the winner of Zoo and Charlo. Not sure what's going on. Hopefully we find out some news with that soon too, guys. I know they're talking about maybe July or August, but we'll see. I know Tim's ready to go tomorrow, but it'll be interesting. Amazing how good he fights in the pocket too. Yeah, this is Fundora. He does. He's not scared. I think it's a silly move, by the way, Carl. Why would you be possibly trying to show how tough you are by standing in the pocket with guys that's what they do? They're sluggers. I don't get it. Especially he did it in his last fight. I don't understand it. Why wouldn't you use your reach and your height and everything else to your advantage, and just to prove that you can stand in the pocket and trade with these guys? I remember Tommy Hearns used to try and do it. Whenever he did, he got KO'd. When he used to go away from that long jab and that beautiful right hand, and he'd get in close and try and slug with guys. Barkley did it to him, and a couple of guys later in his career. Hagler did it. I don't understand why those guys with such assets decide to trade with punches. It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave it at that. We're almost at an hour and a half, and I'm just hoping our stream has held up. But we will be back this Wednesday night for the deep dive show. Apologies last week, just had a little bit on. And going forward, it might actually be every 2 weeks because it's just a bit happening in my business life and all that at the moment, and a few other things going on. But this show will continue to be on every week, and make sure to you check out the What's Your Verdict. Before I go, we've got Jules. A bit late, so it might have been discussed. But what do you think of the 22nd Jalen Tate KO? Don't like it, Jules. Does it do anything for his career? If it has been covered, let me know and I'll go back after. I did go over it, Jules. I'm hoping that fight was a late replacement, that fighter, because he had no business being in there with Jalen Tate. Good young fighter, but the record he'd had, what was he, 27, and he was 27 and 37 and 3 draws going in to the fight. And I'm not sure. I can't imagine that Angelo DiCarlo would sit down and deliberately make that fight, because Jalen Tate, he can handle better than those types of guys, surely. But that's all I can put it down to, Jules, and it must have been a late replacement. That's all I can think of. That's all it is. So, but having said that, guys, if you missed a bit of the show, go back. It'll be on YouTube after this. Go back and check it out. But as I said, on Wednesday with Mike Altamura and Tassie Brown, we'll go over a lot of this stuff tonight. I'll get their opinion on some things, some other stuff happening in the meantime. We should have the No Limit announcement by then we can discuss, and we'll talk to you about it then. And just another reminder that I will be going over to the States for the Maloney boys and for the world title fights. I will be doing live daily updates of that, and I might even do a live back to Australia at some stage as well. So we'll do that as well. But again, thanks for tuning in. See you on Wednesday at 7:30, and next week on the Monday night at the same time tonight, 7 p.m. So thanks again, and we'll see you then.